Hey, it's John coming to you once again from my very ominous dark vehicle. I am ready to comment on the act of domestic terrorism which occurred yesterday in San Bernardino, California, perpetrated by Farouk, and I believe his wife's name is Malik, if I get that right, but either way, the liberal media over the past day and a half has floated many ideas, of course, trying to hush-hush, in my opinion at least, the obvious motivation behind this, which would be the fact that this man is an Islamist. But the media has, in fact, I think they even, when they released his name, was hours kind of ahead of when they could have. And it just seems clear to me they're using terms such as workplace violence, which of course Obama also used for the Fort Hood shooter, who was also jihadist. But we called it workplace violence, and the representative for CARE at the press conference, CARE is an Islamic association in this country, sort of a press PR agency for Muslims, they said, well, it possibly could be ideological extremism. They didn't use religious extremism, they said ideological extremism, which I think just shows you that words are being chosen very carefully to try to place as little blame as possible on Islam. So what are the liberal causes then, if it's not Islam, for something that happened that seems to point towards that? Well, I want to go over a couple of them and then go over the solutions liberals would have, and then I want to go over what I believe are the actual causes, or cause, singular, and the solution from a conservative mindset, and more, I think, specifically a Christian worldview mindset. So we will be utilizing the Christian worldview, and we will be talking about other issues such as the Syrian refugee crisis and how evangelicals have been kind of being duped by progressives and why they're being duped, and issues surrounding this terrorism occurrence that I'm calling a terrorism occurrence that happened yesterday. So, start off, what is the first cause that may have motivated Farouk to open fire? Well, global warming. We cannot rule that one out, right? Well, I think we can. Bernie Sanders said, I don't know, it was maybe a month ago or so, that he thought global warming is a bigger threat than ISIS. In fact, ISIS is getting motivated because of global warming. Well, why is that? Well, the temperature gets up there and it's already a bad situation, and then it makes the crops fail and they have to move to the city and there's unemployment, and it just exacerbates the whole thing. So if we didn't have global warming, we wouldn't have ISIS. Well, other than just being a stupid idea, I don't know how else to call that one. I mean, you go throughout history before carbon emissions and how many actions of terrorism and caliphites were set up, and I mean, it's just, that doesn't even make sense. But let's just take yesterday as an example to disprove it. All right, so carbon emissions are happening. Let's just grant everything that global warming is true. I don't believe that, but let's say global warming is happening, it's man-made, and everything liberals believe is true. Well, this dude, Farouk, had a great job, had all sorts of benefits. He could take a month pilgrimage to Mecca on the Hajj, so he's a serious Muslim there. He just got back from it, actually. He had, like I said, a good job in a good American city, San Bernardino. Global warming wasn't really they have a drought in California. I don't think that's global warming, but let's say it is. You have a drought, but he seems to be taken care of fine. So no socioeconomic impact to him, and you still open fire, and don't see any other Christians or other faiths really doing this level of damage. So I think we can rule out global warming. How about gun control? Just not enough gun control. If we just controlled the guns, we wouldn't have it. Well, number one, he had a bomb. I guess it's a pipe bomb. He had 3 of them kind of combined into one, and he had he tried to set them off. It failed. Anyway, that's highly illegal, and California is pretty much the most restrictive state in the whole country for gun laws. If it's not the most restrictive, it's very close to it. And that didn't seem to stop this guy. So is it gun laws? No, don't think that would be it. So, I mean, these are kind of the 2 major things that have been floated out there. In fact, one CNN commentator was asking, is there a Planned Parenthood nearby? They really wanted to see if they could blame this on a conservative. And sorry, no conservatives had anything to do with this. So what is the cause from a Christian standpoint? Well, the cause from a Christian standpoint would be sin. Very plainly, Jesus said, "What's the evil in man's heart is basically demonstrated in their actions. Evil comes from the heart of man." Well, specifically, what command of God is this guy breaking? Well, we know he's, and this is very politically incorrect to me, he's a Muslim. He is not only a Muslim, but a serious Muslim. I would say an Islamic fundamentalist, most likely. Even his neighbors suspected him and were afraid to report it because they were afraid of the PC police and they didn't want to be bigots. So they suspected him. This guy's a serious Muslim. I mean, it just seems clear that that's probably what's going on here. I mean, I'm like 99.9% sure. And I mean, you got CARE coming out really quickly to denounce this guy. Like it was just amazing how quick they came out with their press conference. Let's just call it what it is. It's sin. So if he's a Muslim, he's committing idolatry. He's worshiping a false god, a god that calls him to kill, not a God that calls him to do the things that Christ calls Christians to do. So, if that's the problem, then our solution is going to look different than the solution of the liberal progressive. Well, what are the liberal progressive? What's their solution? Well, their solution is get rid of the guns. All right, that's a bad idea, and I'll go over why in a minute, but mainly it's just not the root cause. Number two, we got to stop global warming. Okay, that's just, again, stupid. Well, what if the cause is Islamic fundamentalism, then what's the solution? Well, number one, we need to, at the very least, try to crack down on Islamic fundamentalism. And I think the first most obvious way to do that is the Syrian refugee crisis. Don't import Syrian refugees here. That cannot be vetted, which they can't. I mean, they say they can. The FBI director said they couldn't, and there's no way. There's multiple reasons. I'm not going to go over them all now, but you can't vet them. You can't know what's in their heart. So, number one, if you got a faucet that's leaking, turn off the leak before trying to, address the issue that the leaky faucet caused. So I'm not going to go into any other solutions than really that right now, because I think that's like the main one. But here's another idea. I mean, this is sort of, I guess, a solution. But what caused this to occur? What caused an environment in which this Islamic fundamentalist could open fire and feel secure doing it? Well, an environment in which there were no guns, and an environment in which politically correct multiculturalism was the flavor of the day. Let's get rid of multiculturalism and let's bring back some guns, maybe some open carry in California, some deterrence, so that he knows if he tries to open fire, he's going to get shot. He won't be as likely to do it. So that's number one. The places these guys open fire tend to be places where they know they're not going to get any return fire. So, I mean, France, even Fort Hood, believe it or not, you'd think, right? They're just, I mean, I go through a litany of stuff, but it doesn't matter. In this case, it was an area he knew he wouldn't get any return fire. Multiculturalism, that is a crock, because that is the idea that all ideas are equally valid. All beliefs are equally valid. All religions are equally valid. And liberal progressives say, well, religion's just this personal, private thing you do and doesn't affect daily life. Wrong, because Islam is a religion in which we have Sharia, which does affect daily life, including law and everything. So the liberal idea of religion doesn't work for Islam. And I'd say the Muslims, the people who call themselves Muslims who don't believe in the Sharia aren't, they're progressive Muslims. They're not really true Muslims in this. I mean, I don't want to offend anyone, but I am. So if you take your Quran seriously, I mean, that's what I would consider a Muslim. So that kind of pokes a hole in the progressive idea of religion, and therefore the progressive idea of multiculturalism. So that needs to be the first thing to go, which means what? Well, there needs to be an environment in which the neighbors feel like they can report this guy. We need to be able to report things, like Obama even says, if you see something, say something, right? We need to be able to do that. We need to be able to profile based on religion. I hate to say it, but that's kind of, if that's the problem, if it's this kind of idolatry that's causing this kind of violence, then probably should keep an eye on that idolatry, right? So, I'm not going to go through the details of like maybe how that would work. I don't have like a full plan on that, but I know like that's the direction we should be looking in. for a solution to this. So that's the conservative versus the liberal. Now I want to kind of backtrack a little bit, because I said, like, let's vet the Syrian refugees. And I want to talk just for a moment about what I've seen some Christians doing on this thing. And I know I've already made 2 videos on it, so this is not going to be all the same information. But I got to make a quick review of kind of some information that I've already shared. Leftists hijack personal compassion, and they use it to intimidate conservatives and Christians. Well, how do they do that, John? Well, good question. I'm glad you asked. The way they do that is by taking the Christian concept of compassion, which individuals and churches are supposed to follow. You know, if your enemy needs a coat, give him a coat. If he needs a drink, give him a drink, so forth and so on. And they apply it to the government. So they basically say that you're a bigot if you believe that the government shouldn't act the same way that individuals are called to act. Let me repeat that. You're a bigot if you believe the government should act the same way. I'm sorry. Let me backtrack that. You're a bigot if you believe that the government shouldn't act the same way that individuals are supposed to act. So, let me give a quick example. So you got like a mother and you got a child. The child is told never trust strangers, basically because the child doesn't have the mental capacity to vet them. The mother, of course, can trust repairmen. I'm a repairman. So I go to people's houses all the time. They trust me, but they wouldn't let their kid open the door, right? Well, that's because there's different capacities, different responsibilities of a mother and a child. In the same way, government has a different responsibility. They bear the sword, they protect the citizens, the church, and the individuals are the ones that administer care, concern, and all those kinds of things. That's not the government's job. So, but in a liberal mindset, the government's supposed to be giving welfare, and you know they're the ones that are supposed to be giving the coats out and the drinks out to the enemies. So you got kind of a categorical error here, and the Christians get duped by it because they're just like, oh yeah, we're supposed to be about compassion, and then the liberal guy's like, oh yeah, but you're not about compassion when it comes to the government, and the Christian's like, oh yeah, we should still be about compassion, and they're like, and then the liberal guy's like, I've won, because he's shifted the categorical discussion from what individuals are supposed to do to what the government is supposed to do, and that dupes a lot of conservatives. So that's kind of, a concern of mine. And I've seen kind of Christians, two categories of Christians. One is the Christian who I've just described, the leftist Christian who gets duped by that. The second category are people more in my camp. American Vision kind of put out something like this. And I was like scratching my head because I agree with a lot of what they say. Doug Wilson, and now he didn't really go as far as agreeing with it, but they both had this idea of oh, well, our country's gone. We're not really Christian anymore, so you might as well let him in. That's like an E-word mentality in my mind, because I'm just like, man, these are the post-millennials. They're supposed to be the guys that are like, hey, the Christ is going to come back in victory. And then they're the ones that are just like, oh yeah, we should just let them in because we're done for. And I think they're committing an error, and this is what the error is. They're conflating two things. Number one, there's two issues here. Number one is terrorism. We're afraid that we might have terrorist cells that are already here, and we don't want to add to them by bringing in more Syrian refugees we can't vet that might have ISIS sympathies. Second issue is cultural genocide. If you bring in more and more people of a different culture that don't get assimilated, they kind of dumb down or dilute the American culture that's already here. So they can bring in Sharia. Most of them believe in Sharia law. So that's kind of a concern as well. And that's why, typically throughout American history, I guess before, the last 30 years, we brought different ethnic groups in, and then we gave them time to assimilate, and that was kind of the idea behind it, and we don't do that as much anymore. That's just not a thing. So we want them to assimilate, and that's a conservative concern, because we don't want to lose our country, we don't lose the values that created the Constitution, and Sharia is not compatible with the Constitution. Doug Wilson and American Vision, they're kind of like, well, we don't really have much of a country anymore with a constitution that is valued by the citizens, so might as well bring more in. I mean, we don't value it ourselves. Why should we be concerned about others who don't value it? And my response to that is there's a bigger issue here, and that's terrorism. Terrorism, don't conflate the two. Terrorism is a bigger issue than the assimilation issue. I think the assimilation issue should be talked about too, but terrorism, way bigger. So, I just want Christians to be aware of that, because I think the left does these jujitsu moves on us, tries to discourage us, and also tries to get us to, in the name of compassion, which is our term, we define it, actually Christ defines it, and they try to hijack it, make it say what they want, and then say that we're not being compassionate when we're rightly applying what the Bible says. So be aware of that, Christian, and what's this? These are my ideas of like how to solve this. Tackle political correctness, specifically multiculturalism. Don't create an environment where these jihadists are allowed to prosper under the cover of multiculturalism. And because sin is the one causing this, we need to like be honest about that and just talk about Islamic fundamentalism and put the problem where it really should be. So armed citizens, dump the political correctness, be honest about the intent of the domestic terrorism that just happened yesterday and seems to continually be happening. And Christians don't get duped. And that's the end of my video. And I guess the other thing is, let's not forget about the victims of this. Let's be praying for them. And I'm serious about that. Like, these are human beings that lost their lives. And it's so, the left basically politicized this so quickly. I'm like reacting to it, and so are a lot of conservatives, and we shouldn't be. Well, yes, we should. I mean, I am, but we shouldn't be emotionally forgetting, I would say, or like about prayer. I mean, I know. All right, a little tangent here. I know the New Yorker came out today with saying God's not doing anything about the violence that's happening, and they're going after Republican candidates who have said that they're praying for this. But the fact is, prayer does do something, and that just shows they don't understand the Christian worldview, because God does give us guidelines for how to handle these kinds of situations and how to prevent them. And just because God's guidelines aren't being followed doesn't mean God is the one at fault. The one at fault would be us for not implementing God's rules. So that's just kind of, that's the liberals sneaking in their conception of God, which is a God that doesn't require responsibility, and then blaming him because he's shirking his responsibility. It's not his, it's our responsibility to prevent this kind of stuff. So that's just stupid. But I don't use that word a lot. I don't usually use it, but I'm using it a lot for this video. We should be rebellious in that sense. Pray, all right? Just really pray about this, about the victims, about Muslim refugees who are coming here. Love them, because we're not the government. We're called to love them. We should, right? And I don't know. I just think that's really important for Christians to do. Like, support what you believe about the government, what the Bible teaches, but then also support what it says about individuals and love them and care for them. And if your enemy asks you to go with him 1 mile, go with him 2. I totally agree with that. Those are my thoughts. And I hope everyone can have a great day. And what I mean by great is a holy day where you're thinking about perhaps what I've just talked about, comparing it with Scripture, and really mulling it over. Yeah, bye.